Good Monday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Mandatory minicamp going on for the Browns all week. They'll be all over the place. They'll be in Berea tomorrow. They will be at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Then they'll be down at First Energy Stadium as they wrap things up, get a little bit of time off, and head into training camp. Plenty of Browns to talk about a little bit later. We'll be joined by Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. The thing that everybody's still talking about with the Browns is Deshaun Watson.
Yes, I'm calling to comment on the Deshaun Watson thing. Here's the deal. Deshaun Watson made mistakes. Yes, sexual encounters with young massage therapist, whatever. I don't think he's going to get suspended for the whole year for that. He did misrepresent the Shield. So give him his 4 games for misrepresenting the Shield like you do everybody else, and let's play football for the Browns.
And with that, let's welcome in Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan. Mac, I don't think it's that easy of a situation. It's a really complex matter. The NFL, this one's deals with as much public relations as it does anything else in terms of what the NFL does with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, Dave, you're spot on when it comes to that because, again, it's not just, 1 or 2 incidents. It's, again, looking at, the vast number of cases that he's looking at in this case, which makes it more complicated, like you mentioned. And so to just go ahead and say it's going to be 4 games because other people have done it, I think is honestly a little bit erroneous at this point. So, at this point, getting a little bit ahead of yourself. So I think that, going ahead and saying that, I don't think that that's where it's going to end up going to this point. I could see them eventually possibly going up to anywhere from, 4 games, like you mentioned, all the way up to, 10 games possibly. I don't think the full season, but I do think that that's still possibly on the table. Because to be honest, again, we haven't seen a situation like this just with the sheer volume of cases that you're looking at with Deshaun Watson. So, again, I think that it's something that's complex. It can go, anywhere from 4 games to, it could be a season. Again, I'm not ruling anything out when it comes to this Deshaun Watson saga at this point.
Yeah, and again, nobody knows what the league is going to do. Mac Robinson joining us with nature in the background, trying to get a suntan. You're good. All right, minicamp storylines from ESPN. This one seems pretty obvious. For the Browns, what will the first impressions of this new look offense be like with Deshaun Watson? Last time he was on the field, 2020, he threw for over 4,800 yards. It delineates, you got the 24 now civil lawsuits to go with. But if you're a Browns fan, strictly from a football perspective, the thought of what this offense can look like with Deshaun Watson, it's really intriguing.
Yeah, and I think that with the offense especially, he did that with Brandon Cooks as his number 1 receiver, his number 1 running back being, an aged David Johnson. So, you had David Johnson and Duke Johnson in the backfield at that point. So now, again, you mix in a Nick Chubb, you mix in a Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper now here in Cleveland. And, again, a young player like Donovan Peoples-Jones and a newly extended David Njoku. So, the weapons, I think, are a clear upgrade. And this is why, I look at the people that have maybe downplayed the Browns offense, and I understand it to an extent because, again, you don't know how long you're going to have Deshaun Watson for this season. But from a strictly on-field standpoint, the Browns are clearly having an upgrade here because, again, you're upgrading the wide receiver talent when it comes to, Amari Cooper up from Jarvis Landry. And, again, you have a clear top-tier running back room as well as a much better offensive line that he had in Houston. So, I look at what he's able to do this year for the Cleveland Browns, and I do think that it's going to be a genuine upgrade for him. And I think that not only will it have these birds chirping, but I think it'll have the rest of the NFL chirping as well.
There you go. Browns fans chirping about Deshaun Watson. All right, this is from the Factory of Sadness website. 3 big winners from the Browns OTAs heading into minicamp. Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle. Kicker, Cade York. So 2 of the draft picks, 2 of the highly acclaimed draft picks. And then Amari Cooper, the aforementioned wide receiver. When you look at it, Perion Winfrey is going to have every opportunity to earn some snaps. And Cade York, if he does what people think he is, he will be the next Phil Dawson.
I think he can be that and then some at this point. Again, you've seen the distance on some of the kicks that I know that everybody loves seeing the tweets, more so than even the Browns quarterback competitions. I always just end up seeing people loving the kicker updates that we constantly see. But the fact that they went ahead, they selected Cade York, and they they cut the rest of the kicker room at that point, shows the belief that they have in Cade York. So I think that he's somebody who can pretty much be an easy standout for the Browns at this point. And then you mentioned with Perrion Winfrey. Winfrey is somebody who, again, is in that defensive tackle room. And, I think that there's an easy opportunity for him to make a name for himself and really stand out because, again, I think he showed it a little bit during the Senior Bowl, but is more comfortable at that 3 technique spot. And I think that for the Browns, while they might not necessarily have a true nose tackle, I do think that they're going to give enough snaps at the 3 technique spot for Perrion Winfrey for him to be able to, really stand out and really showcase the skills that he was able to show down in Mobile.
Yeah, and, the thing about Winfrey is he wasn't really complaining about it, but he was misused. The way he was used in college did not play to his strengths. That's a better way to put it. And the Browns plan on playing to his strengths.
Yeah, and that's why I think that you heard Perrion Winfrey say that Joe Woods knows what he's talking about and knows what he's doing on defense. Because, again, he can see that strength and he can see where these guys are best utilized and put them in the positions to not only succeed but also thrive in those spots.
The other one is Amari Cooper. And, the way Kevin Stefanski wants to run this offense, a guy like Cooper fits much more so than probably even Odell Beckham Jr. And I'm not saying he's a flashier or more talented receiver. I think he's a better fit for this offense than Odell Beckham Jr. was.
Yeah, and I completely agree because the one thing that we've constantly heard about Amari Cooper time and time again is the emphasis on separation. And while, yes, Odell could separate, Odell a lot of times would maybe freelance a little bit. Amari Cooper has been called one of the best route runners in the NFL at this point. So I look at Amari Cooper, and I think that him coming into Cleveland, is he the number one that, a lot of people were expecting out of Alabama? I mean, I don't know if he's still that guy at this point, but I do think that he can be somebody who, in Kevin Stefanski's offense, can do exactly what he's looking for and really be able to thrive in that offense, especially because he's somebody who can, kill you in the short game with his route running, but also has enough speed to kill you over the top. So I think that he's somebody who has that kind of versatility on offense that really Kevin Stefanski is really looking for and has the ability to separate and the explosiveness that can really take his game to that next level in this Browns offense.
NFL Spin Zone ranked all 32 NFL rosters. Top roster according to NFL Spin Zone, the Bills, followed by the Bucs and the Broncos. Browns were ranked 14th. When you look at the AFC North teams, Bengals were 6th, Ravens 15th, Browns 14th. Mac, if you're telling me the Browns are the 14th best roster, I think you're taking into account that you don't know how many games Deshaun Watson is going to play quarterback for. Thoughts?
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, the birds are chirping along with it too. So, I think that, honestly, I'm right there with you, where, again, you have the majority of your defense coming back this year, where end of the year they were playing phenomenally. You look at the offense, you have a clear upgrade at wide receiver, Amari Cooper over Jarvis Landry, and you have the rest of these receivers. While, yes, they're unproven, Donovan Peoples-Jones has shown flashes. You have David Bell, who is somebody who, again, can separate and kind of take over in that slot role that you're really looking for. And you have more explosiveness when it comes to somebody like a Jakeem Grant. Also in the running back room, all you've done is just add in Jerome Ford. So now you have the same, group of players that you're looking at. And at this point, I just wonder, where is the disconnect? Last year you had the Super Bowl aspirations that everybody was saying. All you've done is improve your quarterback position. You've added in other talented young players in this spot and upgrade your wide receiver room. So, yes, I know that the defensive tackle room isn't, the flashiest and really isn't all that great. But again, you've done pretty much nothing but upgrade in the majority of the areas of the roster. I don't know how you go from somebody that is a Super Bowl contender to 14th best roster in the league, middle of the road, if you're not taking into account the fact that Deshaun Watson should be missing some time this year.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is that defense has a number of guys that have played together, so that would likely take a step forward in that defense can be pretty special. Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll hear about the quarterback situation. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Mac Robinson, 92.3 The Fan. You can hear him tonight from 7 to midnight on 92.3 The Fan. Time for us to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one's about the Browns quarterback situation.
Hi, guys. Got no faith in this quarterback situation whatsoever. Your own Terry Pluto says that Deshaun Watson told him that he did not rule the Browns out. Got no faith in this situation. Conceivable that he could serve his legal suspension or whatever this year, then demand a trade, claiming the Browns mishandled it. Could play this year and do good, suffer his legal ramifications next year, then demand a trade and one out. Possibility, realm of possibility. Trade Baker for Garoppolo if he's out all year. Put Garoppolo on IR. You've got a roster spot cleared up when he comes back in case Jacoby Brissett gets hurt. He's proven he's capable of taking a team to the Super Bowl. I don't know. Your thoughts on this situation?
As always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. Mac, what I would say, I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to demand a trade, especially if the Browns continue to stick by him. You got to remember, Garoppolo makes significantly more than Baker. Baker makes 18.8, 18.9. Garoppolo makes 27. And Garoppolo is coming off a more significant injury than Baker is.
Yeah, and Garoppolo also has a longer injury history than Baker does. So, honestly, I would look at Garoppolo and just think that, again, I've called Garoppolo Instagram stunt food before, where, again, if you're expecting him to come in and be able to, get you a few likes, everything like that, then sure, that's fine. But, again, it's probably not going to taste all that great, and it's probably not going to end up being what you're looking for, at least health-wise, as well. So, again, I look at Jimmy Garoppolo. I look at that as a downgrade, honestly. And I understand some people might not be, all right with Jacoby Brissett. The reason why the Browns bring in Jacoby Brissett and why they bring in Josh Dobbs is because they're guys who are at least a little bit athletic, who can move around in the pocket, while also operating a similar style of offense to Deshaun Watson. So in going after somebody like Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that that's a different type of offense that you'd be looking for. And that you'd be building around him at that point. So looking at what you're getting out of Deshaun Watson, obviously a clear drop-off to Jacoby Brissett, and then clearly another, large leap-off to Josh Dobbs. But again, it's at least a similar offense. That way you don't have to change things up if there is an injury, or in this case, when it comes to Watson, a suspension. So, I just don't see that being the case, and I just don't see that being an option that the Browns will really kind of pursue. The whole asking for a trade, I'm gonna politely disagree when it comes to that. I don't think that is going to be the case when it comes to Watson, especially with everything else going on. I don't think that teams are really going to want to go after that, and I don't think that he's going to demand a trade anyway, because I do think that, again, this is the best case scenario for him to try to win a Super Bowl with this roster. And of the teams that he did whittle his list down to, the Browns were clearly the most talented roster out of all of them. So at this point, I don't see it coming down in a few years where the Browns end up trading off of them. But, who knows? Maybe this could age terribly at this point. But, again, I just don't see that as a scenario where the Browns end up, trading off of him because he asked for a trade.
No, and the other thing is this roster is reasonably young, and there's a window of probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. This front office has a really good handle on how to manipulate the salary cap as well. So let's move on. So this is from Peacock's The Rich Eisen Show. Tom Pelissero, NFL insider type, just on the Baker Mayfield situation and where is the best place for Baker Mayfield?
I would say until the day that Baker Mayfield is not a member of the Browns, any scenario is possible. But Baker Mayfield has made it abundantly clear to the Browns since before even they had made the trade for Deshaun Watson that he does not want to be in Cleveland, that he felt like he was misled, to say the least, by members of the organization with regard to his future. He does not intend to play there again. And if the Browns are thinking about this realistically, I would fairly tell you that they probably are not under any illusions of how easy it would be to mend that fence. Now, if you got to the point that Deshaun Watson were suspended for a season or more, there is a case to be made, at least from an intellectual standpoint, that Baker Mayfield's best chance to revive his career and his earning power is to play 1 year with the Cleveland Browns as opposed to 1 year with the Carolina Panthers or the Seattle Seahawks or whatever team he potentially could go to, because the Browns are pretty talented. They got a couple of really good running backs. They traded for Amari Cooper. They've got playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. They're a team that's really built to win. But, those are, I would say, at this point, still long shot types of possibilities.
And, Mac, I pretty much agree with everything Tom Pelissero said, down to the point of it makes sense, but I don't see that happening at all, even if Deshaun Watson is suspended for a season.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, Dave. There's a chance that, I could, win $1 billion tomorrow. But you know what? I don't see that as being a remote possibility. Baker Mayfield has clearly, handled this situation, the way that he's handled it at this point hasn't been great. And again, the Browns have been trying to move off of him, trying to get him into a different situation. I just don't see a scenario where Baker, at least seeing his personality over the last 4+ years at this point now in Cleveland, I just don't see it as a possibility where he ends up saying, you know what, let's go ahead, let's run it back 1 more year. And to be honest, I don't think that the Browns want to do that because, again, I think that there's, probably some in the locker room that are looking at it and saying, okay, Deshaun's our quarterback, let's move on, fine, let's go. And, again, I look at the scenario where if Baker comes back in, you might run into some issues in the locker room. And, if I'm Andrew Berry, keeping that locker room, as balanced as possible, I think is the key, because you saw last year what happened when that was fractured. And I do think that did play a part in the end of the year and what you were able to see how everything kind of played out. So I do think that, while yes, it is a possibility, and intellectually we can go ahead and bring it up and talk about it all we want, but I'd rather live in this reality and be able to, kind of go through all of this.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say is it's not going to happen. Look at the chemistry. They're going so far to try to build chemistry on this team with the offense, with the defense, the defensive backs. They're going here, they're going there. Last thing in the world they're going to do is try to, destroy that chemistry by bringing Baker back in. Along those lines, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about that whole Baker Mayfield situation.
Hey, lifetime Browns fan here. It just hit me this morning. I think this is what's going to happen. If Deshaun Watson is suspended for an entire year, I think the Browns are hanging on to Baker as like PR insurance. The reason I say that is, what better way to bury those headlines than to bring Baker back? Millions and millions of Baker fans will be excited, and he's at least as good as Jacoby Brissett. Baker needs the audition, the reps to put out there for other teams for next year. So I'm sure he could get talked into it. He gets to drive a Ferrari, and I'm a Baker hater. I really don't like him, but I would sign up for that. I'd be more interested to see Baker Mayfield out there to see what he could do on a prove-it year. And if he's horrible, we put Brissett in. But PR-wise, it's brilliant. Get rid of the Deshaun Watson news, and the news becomes Baker Mayfield is starting for Cleveland. Anyway, have a good day.
As always, appreciate all of them. And I get the thought, but we had just talked about it. I don't see that happening. I really don't.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Again, I don't think that it's a scenario where it makes sense for that locker room. Again, I think that you're going to have different things that might come up during the season. And again, with where the Browns are at this point, it seems like they've already turned the page. I know that you can make the argument for PR. Okay, I guess I can hear that. But, again, I look at what the Browns have done to this point, and I do think that, at this point now, I just don't see it as a scenario that makes sense, at least in my mind.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Best thing for PR, winning football games. Always has been. All right, Dog Pound Daily, 3 Browns trades that will get you talking. So it's kind of interesting. They got Baker Mayfield and Dearness Johnson going, along with a 2023 fifth-round pick to Seattle for a 2023 second, fourth, and a 2024 third. I'm going to give you a couple more, and we'll come back to them. So then they have Dearness Johnson to Houston, 2023 fourth and sixth-round pick. Then they have Anthony Schwartz to Chicago for a 2023 fifth and a 2024 sixth. Of all those, Mac, the only one I'm even remotely interested in is the first one, Baker and Dearness, and if you can get a second, a fourth, and a third, yeah, maybe. I would not trade Dearness Johnson for a fourth and a sixth, and I certainly wouldn't trade Anthony Schwartz for a fifth and a sixth.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And the one thing to keep in mind, too, is that, I understand, these hypothetical trades. And, look, I'm one of the crazy ones that keeps on throwing these out. I'm normally somebody who kind of likes to, look at the different possibilities. But, the Anthony Schwartz one, I agree with you. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't see, somebody looking at the Dearness Johnson deal. I think that the Browns value the running backs too much, and comparatively, I just don't see them giving him up for that kind of a value. A 4 and a 6, I don't think that another team is going to offer that for a running back at this point. So I don't see the Browns kind of matching up in value in that case. And in the first one, yes, I would be interested in that clearly, but the problem that I think that you run into is, again, the running back room when it comes to it. At that point, if you're Seattle, why are you giving up a 2024 third essentially for Dearness Johnson when, again, somebody who, is at a position that isn't as valuable, and you just selected Kenneth Walker in the second round? So I don't see that as being a scenario that really seems plausible at this point. But it would be something that's interesting, at least in my mind. But I just think that when it comes to some of these different trades, that you're looking at what kind of value is the other team giving up, and would they realistically say, yeah, you know what, let's go ahead and do this.
Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Remember, you can listen to Mac tonight from 7 until midnight, 92.3 The Fan. He's in the chair doing the show, so make sure you tune in. When we return, we'll take a look at the Pro Football Focus rankings of the top offensive lines in the NFL. Where do you think the Browns sit? Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan. Mac will be on the air tonight from 7 until midnight. 92.3 The Fan. Make sure you turn it in. Give him a call. Let's take a look. Pro Football Focus ranking the offensive lines in tiers. So tier 1 is minor to no weaknesses at all. And in that tier, there are 2 teams. The Eagles are 1. The Browns are number 2. And Lions and Bucks also there. But you look at the starting lineup, they go Wills, Bitonio, Harris, Teller, Conklin. Pretty strong Browns starting offensive line. You see the amount of snaps Conklin missed. Wills was playing on one leg, and now Harris comes in to replace J.C. Tretter at center. And Mac, when you look at that offensive line is really good, and it's important to note, Nick Harris hasn't started, but Nick Harris did practice as the number 1 center most of last year because J.C. Tretter didn't practice at all, basically, last season.
Yeah, and that's the one benefit, I guess, that you can kind of look to, especially, is the fact that when it comes to this lineup, again, with J.C. Tretter missing as much time during practice, at least you have somebody who has some chemistry. And he also played well against the Green Bay Packers at the end of last year when he did have to fill in for J.C. Tretter. So, getting a chance to see how Nick Harris performs, this is somebody that clearly the coaching staff is high on. Kevin Stefanski and Bill Callahan have talked very highly of Nick Harris so far throughout this offseason. And so, again, I think that somebody like a Nick Harris makes a lot of sense to, kind of fill in. And plus, it really helps when you have 2 all-pro guards and 2 of the highest-paid guards in the league that are right next to you and kind of help you out when it comes to that along the way.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is, and people in Cleveland have been pretty rough on Jedrick Wills. Let's see what he does when he's healthy. Let's see if he can stay healthy. And then, keep in mind, he played pretty well as a rookie. And then last year, he just, he could never get his legs under him, literally. He was battling that high ankle sprain pretty much all season.
Yeah, and that was the one thing is that I remember at the beginning of last year, being on the air on the Fan and really bringing up the fact that, since week 1, it was trying to push him back out there against the Houston Texans, trying to push him back out there against the Chicago Bears until they were forced to sit him down. And, it really felt like throughout the season that he was really kind of struggling to kind of, like you mentioned, get his legs underneath him and really trying to hit the ground running at that point. But, at a certain point, when it comes to Jedrick Wills, he's somebody who, again, like you mentioned, he was really talented in his rookie year. I was excited to see how he was able to kind of build upon that as well. But, again, he's somebody who I look at, and I think that he can really take the offseason. He's been, working out with his teammates constantly as well. He's somebody who I look at and think can really – break open and really kind of showcase what he's able to do this season for the Browns.
All right, CBS Sports. Non-quarterbacks, each team cannot afford to lose, and this one's pretty self-explanatory. For the Browns, they cannot afford to lose Myles Garrett. And, that's pretty obvious, especially you've got Clowney on the edge, and then you got a bunch of young guys. You got Garrett, Clowney, and a bunch of babes that are trying to figure out what they need to do to be successful in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is especially looking at how, these guys have, really showcased some of their talent. You're looking at somebody like a Chase Winovich who, yes, has had success in the past, but really seems like he's more of a situational pass rusher at this point in his career. And then you also have somebody taken in the 3rd round in Alex Wright who, has that potential, but the one thing that really stuck out when it came to NFL teams, at least according to other reports, was the fact that, he has the traits that you want, but at the same time, you're looking for him to develop physically and technique-wise, as he gets to that next level. So, as he's going ahead and getting some more playing time, yeah, he's somebody who needs a little bit of rest, almost like a redshirt type season where he's going to get some snaps, but again, is more so just kind of developing as this season kind of goes along. But again, if you're missing out on Miles, clearly there's going to be a massive drop off. He's one of the top 3 defensive ends in football, arguably number 1 in my opinion. But he's somebody who not only is a great player on the field, but he's one of the leaders on the defensive side. He was the one that organized that defensive trip down to Miami a couple weeks ago. And so he's somebody who I think is somebody that you really cannot afford to lose, both on the field, but also in the locker room.
So the Browns are going to practice in Berea for minicamp tomorrow. They'll go to the Hall of Fame the day after that. Then they'll wrap things up at First Energy Stadium. Last week, the team went to Cleveland Clinic Courts. That's where the Cavaliers practice. The question that was asked of the players, who would win a slam dunk competition for the Cleveland Browns?
Come on, bro. I know who would that. Me. But show me. I seen Denzel in action. He windmill with ease. For him to be that height to do that.
I surprisingly have eyes. So I'm going to go with me.
Me. Ain't even a question. Y'all better look at my high school highlight tape. Bleacher Report, all that. The winner is not me.
I would. Absolutely.
This is easy. Bro, go ask the spring staff who got the highest vertical. That's not a question.
Me.
Never you. My dunk package go crazy though.
I'm winning the dunk. Harris.
No, it's me.
Jacoby Brissett. I'm winning the dunk contest. Easy.
No. The winner would be Myles Garrett, assuming Kevin Stefanski allows him to do it. The guy can jump 5 feet 4 inches standing still. He wins as long as coach allows him to compete.
I want to see him dunk over Kevin Stefanski at this point. You know, at that point, go ahead, throw him in the competition, have him dunk over him. I just want to go ahead and see that. Like, I did love the confidence, whether it be from Johnny Stanton or especially Jakeem Grant out of anybody too, almost like the Nate Robinson type at that point. I want to go ahead and see that underdog matchup.
Yeah, all respect to Jakeem Grant. Myles Garrett is the prohibitive favorite in a slam dunk for the Browns. All right, Mac Robinson and I can step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, some hot takes and predictions for the Browns. Also, quarterback tiers from the 33rd team. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Mac Robinson and I continue talking Browns. You can listen to Mac tonight, 7 to midnight, 92.3 The Fan. Bleacher Report, hot takes and predictions. They say Jadeveon Clowney will have 11 sacks in 15 games. Jakeem Grant, career high 515 yards receiving, 3 receiving touchdowns. And Jacoby Brissett will start at least 4 games and the Browns will win at least 3 of those 4 games. Mac, I don't look at any of those as being outside of the realm of possibility. If Clowney plays, I could see him getting 11 sacks without question. And I think Grant might be kind of the hidden guy in the wide receiving room that people are overlooking a little bit.
Yeah, I tend to agree, especially when it comes to Grant. But when it comes to Clowney, he really was able to kind of showcase a lot of his skill set opposite of Myles Garrett. I do think that, between the two of them, I think that they're both going to have high sack numbers. I can easily see them both, in the double digits when it comes to sacks. And when it comes to Jakeem Grant, I'm more interested not just in the receiving yards, but also when it comes to the total yardage on offense, because he's somebody who I think you're going to actually be able to see utilize those end arounds that Kevin Stefanski has tried to utilize the last few years. He's somebody who, knows how to, hit those holes with the speed that he has, especially on the football field. He was able to do that a little bit with Chicago last year in spurts, both, in the kick return game, but also running the ball as well. And he's somebody who's shifty enough that I think that the offensive staff really can take advantage of. So I think that Kevin Stefanski kind of looks at him both, as a special teamer and on offense. And I think that he's kind of licking his chops and he's ready to go, bringing those guys in. And I think that, with him, I think that you're probably looking at around, 600 total yards, if not more, when it comes to his impact on the offensive end.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see if they use him with bubble screens and those slip screens, because he is a guy, he's a really, really good return guy, and I think he has the ability to have big plays all over the field. CBS Sports, best off-season moves by each and every team. So it's kind of interesting. So for the Houston Texans, they say the best off-season move was trading away Deshaun Watson, letting Davis Mills go unchallenged at quarterback. And then for the Browns, they say it was trading for Amari Cooper. It's kind of interesting, and I get they're looking at the risk associated with Watson. But getting a guy that is potentially a top 5 quarterback, those guys don't grow on trees, and they're not often available when they're as young as Deshaun Watson is.
Yeah, and especially if you're trading somebody off, you're trying to get somebody back with that same kind of talent. So, it's essentially just trading in what you have for the quote-unquote mystery box at that point. So, when it comes to trading off of Deshaun Watson, I mean, I understand it. But, again, I'm looking at when it comes to Deshaun Watson and how everything is kind of built. Trading him away, I understand you're getting started that rebuild, especially, but then you're looking at the Amari Cooper addition. And when you're bringing in Amari Cooper, again, I know what they're trying to say, where the impact doesn't come until after 2023. But again, I think that when you have Amari Cooper into that offense, I think that you're getting a bona fide number 1 wide receiver and one of the best, route runners in the NFL. And that fits exactly what Kevin Stefanski needs. If that's what you're looking for, then great. That's all that you really need.
All right, this is from the 33rdteam.com. Those are former NFL executives that now write opinion pieces. Quarterback tiers. So in the first tier, they have Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow. All franchise guys. So tier 2, also franchise quarterbacks on a lesser scale that can win games, haven't done it in the big moments in the playoffs. Can they win you a Super Bowl? And among those, they have Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, who won the Super Bowl last year, and Russell Wilson. So again, these are former NFL executives. Joe Banner writes for him, Mike Tannenbaum. They view Deshaun Watson as a franchise quarterback along the lines of Lamar Jackson and the guys that we mentioned in that tier 2. It's very interesting from a strictly football perspective how good guys that are, quote-unquote football people view Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and honestly, when it comes to Deshaun Watson, I don't think that we've quite seen what he can do to this point. You've had I almost kind of want to say you've had the safety on, essentially, because of the fact that, you've had Bill O'Brien there. And, looking at what he's done, at least with Deshaun Watson throughout his career, I think that it makes sense that, you might have him a little bit lower. But, again, he's at least won a playoff game and, despite the talent that they had on that roster and around him, again, I do think that, him being there, I kind of get it at this point. The one that really makes me scratch my head is Matthew Stafford, because, again, dueling against somebody in Tom Brady who, should have won that game, early on in the, I believe it was in the NFC Championship game, if I remember right. But, it might have been the divisional, but whatever. Seeing how those two dueled and the fact that Stafford led that comeback at the end of the game, I think that he's somebody who I think maybe could have been bumped up a little bit more, but, at least in the criteria, okay, fine, if you want to put him there. But when it comes to Deshaun Watson, I think that he's still young enough. Again, he's 26 years old. He's somebody who, again, can still push and really can show that he can take you to that next level. Dak Prescott, time and time again, has really shown that, much like the rest of the Dallas Cowboys, he hasn't been able to kind of climb that mountaintop. You haven't seen a Dallas quarterback that has gotten there since Troy Aikman. And so, at that point, that's where, I'm looking at these guys and thinking, yeah, Deshaun Watson's a little bit higher on this list and should be a little bit higher on this list because of the circumstances that he dealt with, at least down there. I think that he's shown that he can do more with less. But now I think that you're going to see what can he do when he has that top-tier defense. He has the actual top-tier running game, and you're not having somebody like Lamar Miller as your number one running back, and how it helps having, that box not necessarily, stacked completely, but, again, having a competent running game that you have to worry about if you're an opposing defense.
Yeah, and again, the athleticism threatens the defense with his legs. There's a lot to like. All right, before we let you go, this is from the Bleacher Report, NFL players who should be on the trade block. They list Cleveland Farrell from the Las Vegas Raiders, edge rusher, former number one pick, hadn't really worked out. They say the best fit is the Cleveland Browns. I get it, but I don't know that the Browns are necessarily looking along those lines. I think, Winovich kind of fills the role that Cleveland Farrell would potentially fill for the Browns.
Yeah, I don't really get this one, Dave. I really don't. I honestly look at, I know they mentioned the Takk McKinley move last year. If I'm looking at the Takk McKinley move, I think that's Chase Winovich. I think that, they've already added in that edge rusher. But, when you talk about somebody like Cleveland Farrell, okay, I can understand it a little bit. But even still, they just drafted somebody with their second pick in the draft, in the third round, mind you. But, again, still a second pick in the draft. And you also still have Winovich among others that are mixed in on that edge rushing group. So I don't really see them, investing another, $10 million or whatever it's going to cost in order to get them to come to Cleveland out of anything. That might just be, a nice value signing after the season. But, I just don't see the value in going out and trading for somebody, let alone giving up the $10 million in cap space that it would take in order to bring him to Cleveland. I just don't see it as a good fit.
Yeah, I'm with you. Mac Robinson, appreciate you hopping on. I know you're getting ready for an air shift 7 to midnight, 92.3 The Fan. Mac, as always, thanks so much for the time and insight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you having me on and hearing out the birds.
All right. Mac Robinson, make sure you're listening to him tonight, 7 to midnight, 92.3 The Fan. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, will join us. We'll continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. So on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, Ian Rappaport talked about the length of the suspension that Deshaun Watson is likely to get and when we might find out. All right.
I can't make a real guess because I have the information that's public, but I don't have the information that's not. I don't know what he said in the depositions. I would say many of the people involved are believing, anticipating that it'll be, some time off the field. Like, I would be surprised at this point if it's like, all right, just a fine.
Oh, of course.
Right. But I can't give, is it 4 or 6 or 8 or 10? Probably somewhere in there, but that's an unbelievable, drastic, distant difference based on the percentage of a season. So I really do not know, and I don't think Roger Goodell knows either.
McAfee show. With that, let's welcome in Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. So, Brad, when you look at that, again, still a developing situation as far as everybody concerned in NFL circles with the Deshaun Watson possible suspension.
Yeah, no question about it. That seems like not much there from Rappaport. No fine. Yeah, I think we knew that it wasn't going to just be a fine, right? Mm-hmm. And also, he gives us the range of 4, 6, 8, 10 games. Sure, yeah, I think we all feel that way or hope that, Dave, honestly, I'd take any of those at this point. I am on the kind of, I fear that it may be more. I fear that we could be pushing towards 12 with an appeal, maybe gets you to 10 or even a season, I fear at the worst. But I'm hoping that what he says, Ian Rappaport said there, 4, 6, 8, 10. I hope we're still in that range, but things seem to be trending toward the harsher side, in my opinion.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree with you. Initially I thought it might be in that range, and I'm thinking it may be climbing up as well. The Browns said that they're not planning on trying to void the contract guarantees or any of the trade. Were you surprised by that at all? And what does that say to you?
I think I'm not surprised by that. We kind of hit on this. I feel, and I've been saying this on my show, the only way is through here for the Browns, right? They took on this risk and the scrutiny that would come with it, knowing that this was going to be part of it. And yeah, it may be a little bit harder than they thought, and it may have come down a little bit rougher than they thought here the past few weeks. Rusty Harden not helping out, on the defense side, had a rough couple weeks. But either way, the light at the end of the tunnel for the Browns is this guy on the field winning you football games, right? So, they have to see it through at this point. And I think that they still feel the same way they did when they went and got him. And I know that's not going to make a lot of people, everybody happy, but ultimately their sacrifice here is they're going to take a huge PR hit in the end to have a better quarterback, because that opportunity never comes along where you can get a top 5 quarterback on the open market, no risk, not having to go through the draft process and develop him and all that stuff and take the risk on that. I mean, this is a guy proven that what he can bring to the table. So they took the shot at it, and the shot is still there. They just have to see through this ugliness first. Yeah. And I think that they still feel strong on that.
Yeah, the other thing it tells me is they at least knew these kind of things could come out. I don't think anything that's come out has surprised them at all, I guess, is what that tells me by the Browns coming out and making that statement, before the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they certainly expected all this, and they knew they were going to take a hit, like I said, and they just need to keep their head down. Stefanski keeps getting asked the same question. He's going to respect the process. They're going to see it through. They're going to keep answering the questions the same way until this thing works itself out. Hopefully we'll get a ruling from the NFL sooner than later, and that'll kind of start, I'm hoping, the end of it. But, it also depends on how Deshaun and Rusty handle this case out of the locker room and in the courtroom too.
So Mike Clay from ESPN has projections for the season coming up and kind of the position groups, strengths and weaknesses. So Mike Clay's projection that the Browns win 9 games, wide receiver, interior, defensive line are kind of the weakest. And right now he went and broke it down enough that it's passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions. He also has the Browns likely winning the first 4 games, better than 55% chance in each of them. But when you look at that, they have Jacoby Brissett thrown 200 passes and Watson thrown 300 and 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. It's kind of interesting. I know you kind of looked at this. What did you take away from the projections by Mike Clay?
Yeah, we broke this down pretty detailed last night on my show. Me and Jake Burns did, and we looked at from the numbers down, from Watson down. The numbers from Watson don't really make sense to what he projected as a 6-game suspension. He has him starting 11 games for the Browns this year, and at 2,454 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions is rather underwhelming. And then, you look at Brissett's numbers. Sure, I would take the 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in 6 starts right now. But if you combine those numbers, Dave, you're looking at an overall quarterback position of what's supposed to be a revamped and highly explosive offense of 3,824 yards passing for the season, 26 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Doing the math on Watson, that's an average of 223 yards a game and less than 2 touchdowns a game. I don't know where he's getting those projections. You look for the running game. You look for, them to have huge numbers there. They're adequate with Chubb at over 1,100 and Kareem Hunt with almost 1,000 total yards. But it seems like they're missing about 700 yards. Like if Deshaun Watson was going to start 11 games, it seems like they're missing about 700 yards of offense somewhere. It doesn't really calculate out for me, in my opinion. If you would say that he was going to, this was the projections for Brissett starting, 10 games and Watson playing 7, then I would say, sure, that makes a lot more sense. But with Watson starting 11 games as he projects here, this seems like there's missing a lot of numbers. They got Cooper under 1,000 yards receiving, Njoku at 593 yards. So if you added about 700 yards in there, you could get Watson up more towards 300 yards a game. I think you throw some more touchdowns in there. I think that Donovan Peoples-Jones maybe kind of separates from the pack with Schwartz and Bell there and gets closer to like 700 yards. And I think same with Njoku, gets up towards 600-700 yards. And I think that would make a lot of sense if you distributed the yards that way. It seems like they're just missing some offense here. And if you look at the rankings as well, he has them ranked as the worst. He's got them as, let me take a quick peek here, Dave. 27th, 29th, and 28th in passing offense. So not great. projections here from Mike Clay.
Yeah, and I get the wide receiver core, but I think the young guys will be a little bit better than that. Brad Ward from BrownsWire.com, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will be right back with more Browns talk here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Former NFL quarterback #1 pick overall Ryan Leaf on the Dan Patrick Show on Peacock with what advice he would give Baker Mayfield.
I continue to do what he's doing, right? I mean, do not waver at all. He's the one who has all the leverage right now. They've already said, Deshaun Watson is the adult in the room apparently, and so stay strong. Get your money and get a chance somewhere else eventually. I don't know how this is going to play out. They have to release him. He can't be on this roster next year.
But what if you find out Deshaun Watson suspended for the first 8 games of the season or the entire year and you're Baker Mayfield?
I want to play.
I would. It allows you to audition.
What would be the best possible scenario for Baker Mayfield? To play in an offense that he knows.
Yeah.
Is Kevin Stefanski going to play him after all that's gone on? Have all the crap he has taken this offseason and dished himself? How is this going to be any bit non-chaotic? It may be less chaotic if Baker Mayfield's starting than it would be if Deshaun Watson's starting, but it's going to be chaos. And they're not going to have a chance, I don't think, to be successful if Baker Mayfield's the starting quarterback in Cleveland.
The team that should trade for Baker Mayfield?
I'd like to see him go someplace where he could maybe sit, but I do think Carolina is a place that still can. I am a big fan of Sam Darnold. I still am. I still believe he has something in him. Somebody needs to give him the right opportunity, and I'm hoping that happens in Carolina this year. But if it doesn't, I think that he has a chance to go there and maybe kind of Mitchell Trubisky it.
I don't think he has the ego to Mitchell Trubisky it.
I don't think so either.
And Brad, that's an interesting take from Sam Darnold. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to strongly disagree about Sam Darnold. I'm not that high on him. I've seen about just enough of him. But Ryan's a fellow quarterback, so I'm sure he wants to have his guys back there. But he says Baker to keep doing the same thing. I don't think there's any way back for Baker. As many good points as people will make about, if he's suspended for X amount of games and he knows the offense and it's best for both sides, I still don't think there's any way back for him to be in a Browns uniform. I just can't fathom it at this point. And I don't think they're going to release him. I think that it would be bad business at this point. You waited this long. I think they're going to wait it out until they can get a deal.
Yeah.
Or a compensatory pick or whatever. or maybe Baker has to come to the table and give up a little money to get free. But either way, I think the Browns are going to hold steady, and so is Mayfield, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think the Browns release him. I saw that someplace else this weekend too, and I kind of thought, I don't think so. I think they're going to stick through this one, Dave.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree with you as well, Brad. I just don't see that happening, and I don't see that Baker really has. I don't see how you think he has any leverage. They can just let him sit there.
No.
So.
Yeah, agreed.
Brad Ward, BrownsWire.com, All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. As always, Brad, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, have a good one. Brad Ward, make sure you read him, BrownsWire.com, also the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. See you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Browns mandatory minicamp underway in Berea. Have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.